It is Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman and your hostess Elsabe Tibinyani right here. In case you have just tuned in, we are talking about Financial Intelligence Amendment Bill, but also Mr. Daniel Steinman did give us a brief history of the Financial Action Task Force, what it was back then, why it was established, which was for, drug trafficking, to avoid that the money that they make from, drug trafficking, that it actually does not enter the, should I say, the world?
The legal financial system.
The legal financial system.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Daniel Steinman, what is the task of the Financial Action Task Force right now, since we are talking about, the Financial Intelligence Amendment Bill for Namibia?
Okay, Elsabe, let's just recap. Financial Action Task Force formed in 1989 as a sort of loose, informal organization amongst the G7 countries to combat drug trafficking, mostly from Central and South America to the United States market, but also from the Middle Eastern producers to the European market.
Yeah.
Then it developed, or it evolved to the point where the big target was to prevent that money to enter the legal financial system worldwide. And then through the years, the membership expanded. By about 1996, it included the G20. And I'm sure our listeners will know what the G20 is. Let's say the leading the leading 20 economies in the world. And then this grew and grew and grew, and the focus also shifted. Because that money, that drug trafficking money that was laundered, that found all sorts of criminal ways of entering the financial system, the owners of that money wanted to generate more returns. And what they do is they would finance terrorism. This became the second big leg or focal area of the Financial Action Task Force. And this is to identify terrorism hotspots and terrorism groups and rebel groups and all sorts of whatnots fighting for this and for that. But they were looking across the globe for areas of strife. Whenever there was political discontent, they would quickly go in there and blow that up to make it a military or quasi-military type of upheaval against a jurisdiction. In other words, basically a rebel movement. And they would finance that rebel movement. And don't think that those days are past. If you look at the eastern part of the Congo, that rebel movement, there are very good indications of that money, that it is actually laundered money. And if you look at the northern part of Mozambique, that conflict there is also financed by laundered money. So this became the second leg of the Financial Action Task Force to combat the financing of terrorism. And then it developed even further. So the third focal area is to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. And you can see I'm nodding my head because it is such a huge mouthful. I must always keep my varkies in a line to get all those names correct. So the third thing for which the Financial Action Task Force stands is to prevent the proliferation of anything that can harm humanity on a very large scale, like a nuclear bomb or other forms of weapons of mass destruction, or like a biological agent. Depending on how much you want to believe the stories about COVID, it's possible that whether it was done intentional or whether it was the thing escaped from a laboratory, it is a form of a weapon of mass destruction. And then also chemical. I mean, we sit today with the ability, if I say we, I say producers the world over, to kill 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people in one go. So this has all become, this entered the horizon of the Financial Action Task Force. And in the meantime, the membership that started with the G7 and expanded to G20, today it includes 182 jurisdictions. So there are 252 jurisdictions, but that doesn't mean there are 252 countries in the world. Let's say there's about 200 to 210 countries. So you can see by far the vast majority of what we would normally recognize as an independent country, they are members of the Financial Action Task Force. And they abide by the standards set by the task force to prevent, first of all, drug trafficking, laundering of money, then financing of terrorism, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. So those are the three issues. Now, the thing has evolved quite a bit. In 2003, South Africa became a member. One of this 182 current members. And we became a member a couple of years later. I'm not 100% sure about the year, but let's say about 6 or 7, maybe 8 years later. And then we promulgated in 2012 the Financial Intelligence Act, which was the germ, the beginning of the whole Financial Action Task Force presence in Namibia. But now you have to see this in context. From 2003, when South Africa joined, to 2022, so 9 years, nothing basically happened. But the task force is a very well-staffed organization. Today it's a very, very big, very powerful international organization. And they put the South African government on review 2 years ago to update their legislation to prevent the three things happening.
Okay.
And South Africa did not pass that test. Over the 2-year period, they failed to upgrade their legislation, and the 24th of February this year, they were grey listed. Now there's our catchphrase for the next part of our session, because it's actually all about grey listing.
Okay. All right, so let's go for the short break, and once we come back, we will talk more.